Okay, we're continuing with quotes from the book The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. Next person is Albrecht Durer. He was a German artist during the time of the Protestant Reformation. You know, he was a contemporary of Martin Luther. He lived from about 1471 to 1528. And this is a self-portrait of him when he was 26 years of age. And what you see is it's a different look. Much of the art back in the earlier Middle Ages was anonymous, okay, versus now this is a Renaissance man. He's still intensely religious. I mean, and look at Johann Sebastian Bach, intensely religious. Some great geniuses came out of Germany, but he knows he's a genius, and he's proud of it, and he's proud of what he does. So he's proud of who he is, and I think that's good. I sort of love the Renaissance attitude of Aristotelian Christianity, Catholic Christianity, really, before the Martin Luther made things crazy. So anyways, a man should be proud of what he does. This is noble masculinity, okay? And so I'll share with you, here are some of his quotes now. He was very famous as a painter and a woodcarver, an engraver. He said, "The artist is chosen by God to fulfill his commands, and he must never be overwhelmed by public opinion." So that's what creates greatness in the art. I studied a whole bunch of geniuses. It is very common that they say something like this. I felt it was my destiny, inspired by God, to produce the best art I could produce, the best literature or philosophy, whatever it might be. And you'll see this over and over again when you study geniuses and people of great achievement, like Michelangelo, okay? It just happens over and over again. That's why I'm such a big admirer of it. If you want to be a creative artist, Christianity is the best thing that ever happened to creative art. You know, we are created in God's image, and like God, we are like Him. We can be creators too. You see that, and that's another reason why I think meditation's a big joke. I never seen anybody do anything great that said, I got it because I sat in front of a wall and said, Om, okay? You know, let's be honest. Meditation's popular because it's viewed as harmless. It's viewed as kind of like a big joke. You know, a big fat Buddha sits in front of a wall and says, Om. Okay, it can lower your stress level, concentrate on your breath, and ignore the rest of the world, but great, massive, incredible, beautiful, magnificent achievement. This is the most common spot it comes from. Let's see, what's his next quote? Here's like a typical prayer quote of Albrecht Durer. "Help us to recognize your voice, O Lord. Help us not to be allured by the madness of the world, so that we may never fall away from you, O Lord Jesus Christ." Okay, that sounds a lot like Michelangelo. "Everything I do is out of faith and hope for you, Christ." By Johann Sebastian Bach, "Everything I do is to the glory of God." You know, John Ruskin, "All great art is praise of God." All right, Albrecht Durer, he continues. "A great artist is an inspired mouthpiece of God." Now, what a responsibility he's put upon himself. He says, in order for me to produce great art, I must be a mouthpiece of God. How would God want me to behave? How would God want me to make this painting? That's why his paintings are magnificent. Okay? He says, "Love and delight are better teachers than compulsion." And he goes on. He says, "Why has God given me this magnificent talent? It is a blessing, but it is also a curse." Yeah, because there's all the responsibility that comes with it. Like Michelangelo had said, if anybody understood how hard I worked, you wouldn't think I'm that talented and it was that great a gift, okay? Bach said, "I am made to work." Okay, those are pretty typical comments of the great achievers. Okay, next we're going to talk about Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck is a psychologist from Stanford, and she came up with one super great thing. She put it into words, the growth mindset. And what this means is, if you emphasize the effort the child makes, you give them a variable that they can control. And what I see in a lot of kids, and she's right about this, if they're told they're smart when they're good at something, and they're only praised for their result while they're young, they sometimes lock up and freeze because they're afraid they're going to fail. They become afraid of failure, and they also don't try anymore. This is a real common problem in school. They can also have a failure, and then they give up on trying. Versus what she recommends is encourage what's called a growth mindset. The idea that if you try harder and develop your skill in the domain, whatever it is, you can get better. So here's some quotes from Carol Dweck. "It is helpful to have a positive mental attitude, a growth mindset. Students who understand that intelligence can be increased will put forth more effort in their schoolwork, and they will get better. Students with a growth mindset can make dramatic academic progress in comparison with their peers. Emphasizing effort gives them a variable they can control. If you emphasize natural intelligence, you take away the child's control. The belief that cherished qualities can be developed creates a passion for learning. The passion for stretching yourself and sticking to the task, even or especially when it's not going well, is the hallmark of the growth mindset. This is the mindset that allows people to thrive during some of the most challenging times in their lives. You can change your mindset. I think she's absolutely, totally correct. Okay, students with a fixed mindset stay interested only when they do well right away. In contrast, students with a growth mindset continue to show the same high level of enthusiasm and interest even when they found the work very challenging. And here's a good one. The growth mindset is like the little engine that could. Yeah, that leads to good results. I've seen that in wrestling. I've seen guys that will sign up for wrestling and be determined to get good. And in the beginning, they'll stink. They'll just beat the crap out of them. But they want to get good. They stay late after practice every day, going over technique. They go to all the spring, summer tournaments, and they get good, even though they don't have much physical ability. I know a guy like that. I used to beat the crap out of him all the time. And then I got injured my senior year. I couldn't compete in the state tournament. And this guy, he went on to be state champion and a 3-time All-American. Okay? And he was a guy who really didn't have much talent to begin with. Okay? But he wanted to be a good wrestler, and he became a great wrestler. Okay. Let's see. The fixed mindset is all about outcome. The growth mindset is about improvement. I've seen this also in pre-med classes where a lot of students will kind of give up. Oh, they get their first couple of C's and B's, and they feel like they can't hack it, versus the growth mindset is they just want to learn, and because they're in it for the long haul and they're willing to try to get better, they'll often get a lot better. They're studying to learn, not just to ace the test. And in the long run, they do better. And they don't have so much stress on them. So anyways, that's a growth mindset. Helpful for teaching your own kid, helpful for having it yourself to become a better student.